Many people want to see Conor Benn back in the ring in this country, getting it on. The question is, when are we likely to see Ben back in the ring here in the UK? Last week, UKAD opted not to appeal the lifting of Ben's suspension by the National Anti-Doping Panel. So as it stands, is he now free to fight in the UK? This was the British Boxing Board of Control's Robert Smith on that just a few minutes ago.
Certainly we're going to consider an application when we receive it. If we receive it, he's obviously had the suspension lifted. So I can't see the reason why he can't box once he's been granted a licence.
I see, and that leads me on to my next question, Robert. Will he now have his British Boxing Board of Control licence returned to him?
We have to apply for it first. We haven't received anything from him yet. When we receive it, we'll consider it in a normal manner, and I can't see any reason why he wouldn't.
Robert, the National Anti-Doping Panel said they weren't satisfied that UKAD or the board had proved that Ben had committed an anti-doping violation. Why can't you prove it?
Unfortunately, I can't go into that because obviously it's a legal matter, but you mustn't forget that UKAD deal with all anti-doping issues, disciplinary and like what, for all sports in the country. So ultimately they're acting on our behalf. They've decided they're not going to appeal. We take it as read on that situation. We won't be appealing it, and we move on.
With all your experience, in your mind, is Conor Benn cleared?
He's had his suspension lifted. He's cleared to box when he gets a licence.
That's a yes. In your mind, he's cleared to fight.
Once we receive an application, there's going to be no appeal, as I said, from UKAD. No appeal from us after our legal people have looked at the documentation that's been received by them. The suspension is lifted if he applies for a licence, and in due course he's granted a licence, he'll be able to box here, yes.
So there's only one more thing for me to clear up with you. Has he proved his innocence?
He's had his suspension lifted. I'm not going to go into ins and outs. I'm not a legal person. Learned a great deal about the law during the course of this, but as I say, the National Anti-Doping Panel have lifted suspension and he'll be cleared to box.
That was Robert Smith of the British Boxing Board of Control. Adam Smith is with Simon and myself. Adam, has anybody come out of this looking any the better?
We move on, said Robert Smith, and let's please move on. We want to see Conor Benn back. We want to see his career reignited. He's a great young man. He's a fantastic fighter. Please, these things will pass. I want to see it. I want to see him fight again. I've been so confused by the last 2 or 3 years, baffled, disillusioned, lots of things. Lots of people have gone through a huge amount of money and a huge amount of probably mental anguish and all the rest of it. I think that Robert said it there. We move on.
I think that says it all, doesn't it, Simon?
It depends what you're defending it against. If you're asking people to be cleared and to remove drug taking from sport, then you have to approach it seriously. If you want to suggest that him to be guilty, but he hasn't been cleared, so he's now had his suspension lifted. It isn't about jurisdiction, as I thought it was. It's about something else, which is a technicality between UKAD and VADA. And UKAD need to be better at what they're doing, and the British Boxing Board of Control probably need to revise their rules. Because ultimately, like in the Premier League, the sports and the technicality of sports and the legal ramifications of what's happening in and around sports are manifesting themselves in the Premier League. The Premier League need to rewrite their rules. The British Boxing Board of Control, if they want to get hold of something, they need to rewrite their rules so they don't have what seems to be a very poor regime in UKAD that can't do their jobs properly. And now Conor should be allowed to move on. Whatever people think of it, there's been plenty of other fighters, like Tyson Fury, that people seem to have forgotten had a ban, like Canelo Alvarez, like Povetkin. The only thing that people have objected to is potentially the way Conor chose to behave and the way his promoters chose to behave and the way Kalasalan chose to behave, who was promoting Eubank at the time, telling everybody they should be able to fight with some drugs if they felt like it because the doctor's advice said they should. All of that can't be right, but it's done now. And whether people think that's right or wrong, it's now done. It's a chapter that closed. If people want to, if Conor wants benediction and wants to say that he's been cleared, then I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. He's cleared to fight. That's it. And that's good enough.
Adam, before you go, the last word.
Yeah, I just wanted to say my heart goes out to Israel Vazquez's family. We lost Israel overnight through cancer, just at 47. A wonderful, wonderful fighter who gave us those 4 incredible battles with Rafael Marquez, and they shared them. And he was an absolute pleasure to be around, to commentate on, and we've lost him too soon. So the fight fraternity gathers round at these sort of times. Israel Vazquez will be long remembered.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.